Welcome to Dare, the show for innovators, entrepreneurs, and startup leaders who dare to shape the future. Your hosts today are Ned Hayes and Cecilia Mariani. Dare is brought to you by Darwaf, the superpower tech team that can make your vision a reality. The Dare podcast is happy to welcome Ben Jonson to the show today. He's a serial tech co-founder. He has a fantastic track record in all sorts of programming and software development. He's been a board-level advisor, and he's been a founder, and he's the CEO and founder of Particle41, which is a dev firm based out of Dallas-Fort Worth area that does national software development and DevOps work. So welcome to the show, Ben.
Thanks, Ned. Thanks for having me.
Well, of course, the first question is, what the heck is Particle41?
So we're named after the 41st element in the periodic table. We decided not to call the company niobium. And really what I learned about that particular element is that it's often added to steel to make it stronger and more flexible. And so that's the metaphor here, is that we feel like when we partner with businesses, we make them stronger and more flexible technologically.
Got it. Well, I did notice that you actually went to the Colorado School of Mines. So did your knowledge of the chemical table come out of that experience?
Had some great friends in metallurgy and mechanical engineering. I myself wanted to be a mechanical engineer, but alas, could not pass the third year physics and organic chemistry. So I went to computer science really out of following the path of least resistance, but I was better for it.
Got it. Well, it sounds like you have a really interesting career in computer science. So if you could tell me, what kind of work does Particle41 do? I mean, I know you come out of the chemical world in terms of your name, but that's not the work you do, right?
Sure. Yeah. Of course, we have been working on apps for many years. My partner and I have known each other and worked as partners for about 20. But in 2014, we really wanted to do it for ourselves as a service company. And so we definitely cut our teeth on just straight up software development. But of late, we've really started to gravitate towards enterprises and organizations that need to modernize and need to take full benefits of the cloud and cloud native solutions.
Fantastic. So the kind of work that you do is pretty comprehensive. I mean, you're covering, it sounds like soup to nuts for many of your clients, right?
Yeah. So we have four major practice areas. CTO advisory is a great way to get started with us because we'll give you a second opinion around what you're doing with your tech. We even have this periodic table of business tools where we'll help you see how your business tools stack against like basically the up to right Gartner recommendations. So are you a Gmail company or an Office 365 company? And if you are, then what does that maybe mean for the rest of your ecosystem? And so we do that ecosystem evaluation. And so I call that the boardroom presence, but we also get all the way down to the code review. So we have software development skills, we have cloud and platform or DevOps type of skills. And then our last and final is data and data engineering. And we have great practice leads for all four of those practice categories. So we can really be your engineering team in a box. We come with a complete partnership.
Wow. So one area that you do mention as one of your four is data science. And the tagline on your site is utilizing AI to make you more valuable to customers. So before we get into what you're doing there, I wonder if you could distinguish for our audience between kind of the popular idea of AI as just being generative AI and being large language models versus all the other types of things that are connected to AI and machine learning systems.
Yeah, so normally when you're using AI or machine learning systems, you're talking about a decision. And this decision is usually not served by statistical analysis, but predictive analytics, or it just has so many different factors that you want something that's going to make a learned or a broader type of process. So what we find is that those things are kind of the cherries on top of a big data problem. So collecting all the data from different places. So as we've helped customers, one of our customers is in the hearing aid space, and they needed to collect the data from all of their clinics, all the hearing aid clinics all over the United States. All that data needed to come into a central repository. And now all of a sudden there's enough data to make predictive assumptions around, okay, where should they spend their marketing dollars, or where should they invest in additional clinics, or where should they start rolling up clinics? But the AI and machine learning are best when you feed it plenty of data. And what we found is folks want to use AI because it's very popular, but they're not often ready for that collection activity, and their data is often not clean enough to make precise, predictive decisions with. So we help them along that journey.
It's kind of like buying a high-powered stallion without having a barn to put it in or food to feed it or anything. If you don't have the data, your AI is totally useless.
That's right. And I did a startup in the legal space. And what we're finding with that is you might want a generative AI. Think of generative AI as the thing that's generating documents or generating output. And so you may want a generative AI, but you better narrow that set to existing case law. This famous story about the lawyer that uses ChatGPT. ChatGPT hallucinates a case. The guy goes and argues off of that precedent and ends up losing his license to practice law because he was using a way too wide of a set. So we're seeing people really need to narrow what they're feeding the AI. And in some cases, we're seeing that AI is just not the right solution, that going back to statistical analysis and a more narrow data set serves. And so our team is really good at recommending the right solution for your stage of business and not allowing you to get ahead of yourself with the latest and greatest just because it's cool.
Right, right. I mean, just because you have a hammer doesn't mean that everything is a nail, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, so you can cover the gamut of solutions for customers, and you can also provide that CTO advisory. But, I'm really curious, how do you approach a customer who comes in and says, "We want to build this cool, innovative thing"? Like, where do you start? How do you manage that process? Could you give us some insight into what success looks like there?
Yeah. So I call it the high need, high value matrix, right? And it's part of our CTO advisory where we look at, okay, well, what's going on with you? What's your unique ecosystem? What solutions are you using already? Like what's in place? And then how is the user navigating through that for you to make money? And
Hmm.
so we really spend some time evaluating the user journey around your unique business tools and then figuring out like where are your bottlenecks. So is it an integration problem that you have a bunch of tools that are working pretty good, but they're not properly integrated? You have data entry happening between steps of your business that sometimes has errors. And then what are the highest value things? What are you going to need to compete? What are your competitors doing? Or what is it that's differentiating you? Where we find custom software is best, as in that highest need, closest to the customer place. This is why everybody went absolutely bonkers for mobile apps because mobile apps were going to be used by their customer and that mobile app was going to differentiate them from other businesses that do similar things. Perfect place. Get some custom software and make sure your platform is ready to integrate with that custom mobile app and really design it specific to the use case that the customer has having that in their pocket. And so mobile was a great place where we saw custom application development shine. And we see that also when maybe you have a Salesforce enterprise or you have a NetSuite in your enterprise already, but something's just not quite making sense when it comes to that customer experience. I think that's where we really evaluate. And then that's where we want to put the most of our time and the most of the investment from the customer or our client goes best to those niches.
Right. So there are kind of two ways to develop software. One is for a company to hire a team and use that team in-house and hire those people on staff for, a long time to come. They build the software from the beginning and they maintain it. And maybe the staff switches out over time, but fundamentally it's an in-house team versus a company who says, yeah, we want to use outside developers. And Particle 41 would fall into that kind of outside development camp. Why would a company make the decision to use Particle 41 instead of hiring in-house?
Well, maintaining, and I can tell you because this is what I do spend the most time on.
Yep.
Developing a software engineering culture, a technology engineering culture is hard. We want to make sure that our people are connected to what they're learning, what kind of toys they're being able to play with, and just their profession around software development. If that's not your core competency, if your job is to go sell hearing aids or to go create a digital music training platform like some of our
Yeah.
customers, then maybe it is best for you to partner with somebody like us. And I use the word partner in all caps because our teams work shoulder to shoulder with you. They're like your in-house team. We want to be
Right.
like that. So even though your CFO might consider us an outsourced relationship, we want the experience of building products together to be very collaborative and integrated. So we're trying to give the client the best of both worlds, but let us focus on managing the team according to your direction and your vision for your product or service. And we find that that's a really good high value proposition. We give you the managed capacity, but we want to be one team working together.
Right. Well, and then I'll ask a related question. That's a really great answer, Ben. A related question is there are a lot of companies that do outsourced or software engineering. What distinguishes Particle 41? What makes you guys so special?
Yeah, and again, it goes back to like the work we do on the culture, right? So in most companies, especially the larger you get, when you work with an outsourced firm, you think the asset is labor, right? The asset is manpower. I'm going to go get a bunch of bodies and bodies are going to solve my problem. We try to approach that. We realize that our client may be thinking that way, but our objective is to approach it with the asset of skill. So think you could either go deploy the regular army or you could go get special operators. We want to be, and we strive every day to be the special operators of software development, cloud, and data, because we want you to get the value of our previous expertise. We want you to get the value of being trained in training and being consultants and masters of our craft. We don't just want to we don't want to deploy the regular army, just the asset of bodies going to crush the work.
Right.
We
Those,
want to give you that special ops advantage.
yeah, so you guys can kind of the Delta Force software development team, special ops
That's right.
force, come in, really fix things, complex problems. That's fascinating. Well, so your background, as you already mentioned, you did some work in the legal arena as a software developer. And did any of that work inspire you to start Particle 41?
So I have joined a bunch of companies, about 5 different companies throughout my history, usually as the technical co-founder, or maybe I didn't have the CTO title, but I was the lead technical architect of the solution. And I love that role. I love following people who have great ideas and know their industry, and I can follow them up with world-class solutions that help them compete quickly. And so the latest one was a company called Legal Inc. that we sold to LegalZoom. We've done a couple in online advertising. And I say we because my partner, that is an Indian national, Sukhdev Gidwani, he was the tech guy on the other side, and I was in-house defining the product roadmap and working closely with him and his team. And so when we started Particle 41, is really an extension of what we were already doing in travel, in online advertising, in finance, and healthcare, and legal space. And we just wanted to capture that as a service.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, you also mentioned the legal cases around AI and people using AI to try to write legal docs that ended up in some hot water. But I'm curious if you could tell us how you see AI transforming either your industry or the legal industry. Like, where are we going with AI, Ben?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a cautiously optimistic perspective where it's going to make us all really productive, but we still need to own the output. So, of course, we're using it to help us write faster. It's saving us all time. I love my Claude workflow where I'm able to attach a document or a meeting transcript and then interact, brainstorm, and maybe produce written work from that. But I have to really look over the verboseness of the output. Is it buttering the bread with too many adjectives? So I think we're still at an early stage where this is happening. But in terms of having an objective partner to help you with your work, I think it's going great. It's fun. And then in software development, we certainly see it accelerating the typing and the mouse clicks, and we're able to generate, but we really still have to be careful to own the output. And there are cases, we have a virtual reality team that just really can't use it at all. And we've just kind of excluded it from our work in virtual reality because of virtual reality and game development are all about building the environment and the physics engine and the things that you use as utility when you're solving specific problems. And most of the money for game development and VR goes into the environment, right? Goes into how the setting and the world works. Folks have dumped a ton of money into those kinds of projects. to make the game expansive. And so, normally the AI is not going to know anything about that, and you wouldn't want them to. So your generation possibilities are cut down. So it's really going to be very use case specific. And I think it's just going to accelerate steps in the workflow. It's not going to replace the workflow altogether.
Right, right. It's going to accentuate and be another tool for people. Some of the hype around AI taking away jobs is to me similar to when spreadsheets came out. I'm kind of revealing my age here, but when spreadsheets came out, they said, oh, accountants are all going to be out of work. Well, every accountant I know actually works harder with a spreadsheet because they can get more clients, they can do more work. And so AI, I think, is just going to speed up the productive people, and people who don't know how to use it are just going to be slower.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think when you give AI small steps and say, hey, I need to take this from here, just quick A to B, but you own the alphabet, I think that's the right recipe, at least right now. Can it enhance my marketing emails? Sure, it'll give you the first draft a little bit quicker, but you still got to cut it down and make it worth reading.
Right. So I want to turn the focus from like emails and spreadsheets into code. Like Microsoft has made a big bet on OpenAI and Copilot and GitHub and integrating all of this stuff. And now, OpenAI has done this deal to ingest all of the Stack Overflow work. So in theory, you should be able to get an AI co-developer or an actual programmer on your team who you can just assign work to. But my experience in trying to do that has been it don't work out so well. So
No.
tell me what the gap is. What's the delta between the ideal of like I can have an AI programmer on my team and what's happening today? And how are we going to bridge that gap?
Yeah, so code generation has been something that we've had for a long time, not necessarily AI driven, but
Yeah,
hey, this is the way my framework works. Here's the semantics of my problem, build my RESTful controller, build my MVC framework, like give me all the placeholders. So there's been scaffolding generators for a long
right,
time. And you got to feed those scaffolding generators the vernacular. I don't think that changes just because we have AI. It's not going to name things for you. It might give you a suggested naming, but in software development, naming things is the hard part. Connecting the business semantics to the software
right,
is the necessary part. What is that thing supposed to do? You have to discuss that. There could be some cool AI tricks to like take that meeting transcript and turn that into data model or whatever, but you're still going to have to look over it really closely. So I think that's what I mean by cautiously optimistic that, yeah, there could be some really cool boosts of productivity, but we still have to own the output. And I think it'll be really hard for folks learning because there might be this extra layer of abstraction that folks are starting to implement through their software development workflow. And the hardest thing for the newbie is to dig through those layers of abstraction and understand what's really going on.
right,
We rolled out training so that everybody would understand like what is network topography. Well, if you've never built a switch or hand configured a Cisco switch, nobody's done that in years. And so if you don't have that network topography background and you're designing a cloud infrastructure, for example, you're missing a piece.
right.
And so we're just recognizing that our training around, here's what the abstraction is doing. And then we need to train and test around understanding what it's doing and why. I think that's going to be a huge challenge as we try to create teams that are productive, but also know what's going on under the hood.
Right, right. Someone recently observed they felt like we aren't going to have any content created, even code. We're just going to have curators. And my response to that is in order to be a valuable curator, in order to have the wisdom to discern what's good and what's bad, you had to start as a content creator. To your point about you had to understand switches in order to understand the overall topography. You had to actually get your hands dirty in the code before you can figure out what's good code and what's bad. And so I think the learning curve is going to be a lot steeper because people are going to want to have these curators, going to want to have people who can discern a lot. And yet that takes time to build that expertise.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know that that changes. I mean, I feel like I draw from the experience of building a homegrown data center in my 20s
Yeah.
every day. And when all you're given is an AI tool and a and just layers of abstraction that we still have in place. What I'd be really excited about if the underlying tech improved. Like
Mm,
if we had a new software development language or a new framework that was kind of leaning on AI in a way where it was kind of one and the same, where the actual problem we're solving like actually shifted.
right.
So that would be really interesting because
Yeah.
all we're going to start doing is generating a lot of what we have today. That like what we have today will be faster to produce, but does that necessarily say like maybe what we have today should be improved on fundamentally? And
Mm.
maybe our friends that are working on like Web3 projects and blockchain and all of that will come up with something really cool. But I think AI is just going to be as good as the information we give it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to your point about layers of abstraction, kind of reminds me of the Bertrand Russell quote about it being turtles all the way down. It's one layer of abstraction on top of another, on top of another. And it becomes hard to parse if you didn't start by writing, basic or writing super simple code to be able to understand what's built on top of each other. So, how do you go about educating engineers in your firm at Particle 41 or also educating client software engineers who want to contribute?
Yeah, I mean, in all practicality, we're big Udemy fans. So everybody at Particle 41 has a Udemy license. And then we have special tracks and roadmaps and incentives around getting certifications through AWS and just kind of doing it the old fashioned way. We've realized that, yes, you have a degree, and that degree does not necessarily give you the practical guidance that we need you to have. So, yeah, we're real big on training, as is the special operations metaphor, right? The Delta
Mhm.
Force goes through a lot of additional training and it's rigorous, and you got to be prepared to comply with that.
Got it. Well, a couple other things I want to ask. How does one start working with Particle 41? Like if I am a startup out there that has a really good idea, has some funding, how do I start working with you? How do I make sure that my engagement with you is successful?
Sure. So, tactically, go on the website. There's a link. You schedule a meeting with me. We start discussing. We have found that the UI UX design and high fidelity wireframe process is a great starting point. We've done that. So, we have an in house designer, a design team, and we love Figma, high fidelity wireframes, and prototypes. And we just love that that gives you an idea of the product and what you're trying to do, especially in that startup space, the way you teed that up. We think that's a great place. So if you have somebody that you know that knows how to do that, go have those discussions and start that collaboration or come do it with us. But we really feel like that first round of, hey, what is this thing supposed to do? What makes it different? How do we get into that high value quadrant and away from the high need into the high value? What's really going to make you different? And focusing on that and having that answer is a great first step.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for that. We have one final question, Ben, that kind of wraps up our interview today. The question is, what do you dare to dream? What future do you think you're building with Particle 41?
So we're about 120 people right now. We see a bright future. We'd love to do more CTO advisory with folks. We're also launching a DevOps as a service project for folks that want to do better with their AWS infrastructure. And so that comes with like cost analysis, improving their automation and their time to recovery on the DevOps side. And we've come up with a very affordable subscription based price point. And so you open tickets with us and you come and just kind of all you can eat up to a point under one easy monthly fee. And then we're also really excited about what our data team is doing around Lakehouse architecture, Databricks, and Snowflake. And we just want to do more of what we're doing today. And really, our mission is to replace the world's legacy tech with up to date cloud based services. And we want to further that mission while making our clients stronger and more flexible.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that. Really appreciate your time today, Ben. And it's been such a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate the question.
Okay, take care. Thanks to our guests today for their great insights on Dare, the podcast for innovators, entrepreneurs, and startup leaders. If you'd like your story to be featured on Dare, just contact us at info@darwaft.com. Dare is brought to you by Darwaft, the tech team that can make your vision a reality.